What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Gary Numan, and we're returning to Telekon 1980. Thank you again to Han Solo. And the next track is the Aircrash Bureau, which seems very straightforward. All I would say is that it does sound like the type of bureau or agency or division that you would see in a dystopian novel like Brave New World or, Fahrenheit 451. So ultimately, I would expect it to have some sci-fi futuristic scenario or context, given the nature of his lyrics on the previous album and from my understanding and people's comments, this one as well. Let's give it a listen. This is Gary Numan. The track is The Aircrash Bureau, and it's from the 1980 album Telekon.
Now I'm the Aircrash Bureau. I bet you're so surprised to see me. I can specialize in rumors, thoughts and shivers up your spine. Pilots back enigma squadrons. I was flying before daylight. Now I'm warning you of falling. I'll tell you when you're going down. Sometimes I get these questions. It reminds me of the skin guy. He used to stand around the waters. And what did we forget? Somehow she moved closer. That's what I call romance. Someone's calling me but vaguely. You need the feeling
So, lyrically, I'll admit, I caught bits of the first verse better than anything, and after a while, I really was just keyed in on the sonics very intensely. So, the lyrics in the latter, let's say 60% of the tune, did not make their way into my brain as readily as the first couple minutes. So, yes, one that I'll have to re listen to. Obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing people's comments. Hopefully, they aren't getting deleted. I noticed a few people in some different deep dives have said recently that they've written long comments and they've somehow vanished, so I don't have anything to do with that. I don't even understand YouTube's algorithm. Sometimes, like, comments disappear, and then I'll click on the tab where it says, like, show either the top comments or the newest comments, and I'll click to the newest tab, and suddenly one or two that weren't showing before will show up, and then in other cases they're really just gone. So again, I apologize when that happens. I don't have anything to do with it. All I would say is maybe right before you hit post, or certainly before you leave the screen, like maybe like copy the comment so then you can like refresh the page or come back to the page, and if it's not there, just paste it again and maybe tweak something. Again, I don't even know the particular standards or algorithms by which YouTube might block something. I know sometimes putting hyperlinks in will lead to them getting removed, but yeah, I apologize if that does happen to people. But in any case, the point is, I heard some lines in the first verse that were like, he's showing up at the Aircrash Bureau and people are surprised to see him. And then there was a line about like, I tell you when you're going down, which I was thinking in advance, even though I did mention that, it sounds like something from a dystopian novel. But I was thinking in advance, like emergency response, like, a bureau that takes care of serious vehicle air travel disasters, and whether that's involved in the cleanup or the searching for survivors, or paying out compensation to those who are deceased based on an engineering problem or operator error or whatever. But it almost sounded like it was intentional, like it was a bureau that takes down flights if they're deemed to be a risk to the regime or whatever it is. So it actually suddenly felt even more dystopian than I was thinking in advance. And then, as I said, as the song went along, I was really keying in on the sonics, so that I probably heard one or two phrases in the moment, but as the song was coming to an end, and especially after the piano, like the true piano sound played a much larger role than maybe I would have expected, given that a lot of the sonics in his tunes are these very rich synths, rising up into the sky over these cycling, gurgling sometimes lower end of the track, especially in the Two-Way Army stuff. But yeah, I don't often think of like a true piano melodic run when I think of Numan's tunes, but that really became like one of the main facets of the track in the final third. So I was so like mesmerized by that whatever I heard from the second and verse and beyond, it sort of faded a bit. But yeah, sonically a really interesting one. Lots of these little percussive cycles, like one or two that sounded almost like metronomes. We eventually had what sounded like a grandfather clock or something, this very rich, chimey type of flourish, when I was wondering in that moment, and the reason I was sort of like waiting to hear, I thought it might dismantle and stop in that moment instead of rising back again the way it had done a couple times previous. But it didn't stop, nor did it come back the way it did a couple times previous, but it like flourished with, again, almost this clock style alert or marking of a particular like time, which again, if you're navigating time and relative position, whether it's like height or what's the altitude, or some longitudinal or latitude measurement, it suddenly felt very mechanical or time based. So yeah, there are sounds here that were, again, the type of synth work I've come to know from his tunes. Even that one that kind of would go high and it just held there and held there for, a long run. That reminds me of something like Cars, which again is a tune I had heard of his before I started this deep dive. But as I said, the piano really struck me because it not only, it was just like at first sort of like chords, and then it started like, playing longer melodic runs, these like flourishes, even got like louder and louder within the overall sonic structure of the track. So that component really surprised me and I thought was a really nice element. So yeah, I don't really know what it's about. I'll look forward to people commenting. I'll try to give it another listen. And of course, as I've commented in a number of reactions, but every once in a while, including earlier tonight, I'll get a comment like, "Do you not own headphones?" I do own headphones, and I listen to almost everything I react to in this context in headphones. But I started this channel as like a, techno and punk, like, hey, I'm going to put on a record, I'm just going to listen to it and talk to it in this open setting as if we're sitting in the same room listening to the same record. That's the way I've continued to do things. I have also received a lot of positive feedback about that, but for any of you out there under the notion that I don't own a pair of headphones or it's impossible for me to listen to music in headphones, that's not true. And indeed, many of you probably know I do some video reactions and reacting to music in that context, but I will continue to do these reactions because it's sort of the bread and butter of what this channel is. And when I listen to music here, rest assured I will eventually, if not the same night, which is often the case, listen to these songs in headphones where it's a more immersive listen, and sometimes I catch lyrics better. But as I've said since the very beginning, my way with music has always been just to, listen to it a few times, not just immediately run and look at the lyric sheet in the booklet or in more recent times online. I like to let the words and the vocals wash over me, and usually after a few listens, I do internalize much more of them. And if there's still a question of like, what's he saying there? After like the 6th or 7th listen, then typically I'll go look in the booklet and it's, oh, that's the word he's saying. Got it. So, in any case, I will continue to do things the way I've done. I appreciate all the people who are part of this. Do let me know what you think of the song from Gary Numan. I will see you next time. Peace.